let's start with ALCS. We also do recap shows after the games. So what I want to do is try and spin it forward now, okay? It happened. It's 2-2 in the series. So where is your head at? Do you think that the Astros have the edge now based on them technically having home field at this point? It's a best of 3 series, where the pitching staffs are at, and what you see, especially going for a game 5 now, where we get the number 1 starters back on both sides. This is the series that we had circled, and I think it's living up to it.
Yeah, I think you make really great points there, Scott. I think for me, it definitely goes back to 0 and best of 3 for both of these teams. And I think the thing that I think about when looking at this series, the shorter the series was, the more the Rangers had the advantage. The longer the series went, the more the Astros had the advantage. And now that we're in this best of 3 situation now, I do think the Astros that have come back to life here. And the thing that I was worried about with the Texas Rangers going into this postseason was that bullpen. But they had shut me up, and we had talked about it early in the week, because going into game 3, they had a 2.01 ERA. Now you had them go 5 innings in game 3 and then 8 2/3 innings from your bullpen in game 4. That's not great if you're the Rangers. And now they've gotten a lot of looks at everybody in your bullpen. Guys are going to be worn down going into game 5 before you get that day off. And I thought for the Rangers, it behooved them to win it in 5 games, or you didn't have to go back to Houston. Now that you know that you'll have to go back to Houston, and the fact that the Astros have had so much success in their own building, it just puts them behind the 8 ball. And so I thought from jump, the Rangers looked like the better team, but the team that we saw that went 7-0 in the postseason, they haven't really shown up the last couple of days.
Was it more indicative to they had a good bullpen the first 2 games, or was it the fact that they just don't have a deep bullpen? And it all is going to end up hinging on the starters, making sure you get to those final 3 guys, which Chapman's one of those final 3 guys, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that. And if you're only going to get 4 innings from Max Scherzer, you got 2/3 innings from Andrew Heaney. That's the big killer, right? That's a lot of outs to cover in the postseason anytime, but especially in the postseason when we've talked about it before, coming into the postseason, that these bullpens are so important to your success, and one game can throw off the rest of the series. And I definitely think it's, hey, how quickly can we get this thing over to José Leclerc in the back end? And if that's not a guy that can just go 3 or 4 innings where it's like, all right, get us to 5, we got Leclerc. Or like the Andrew Miller from 2016-17, where it's like, hey, can you get us 2 innings in the back end, please and thank you? So the fact that you don't have that, and the fact that you have Aroldis Chapman that might throw a scoreless inning, but there might be 2 walks mixed in there, or there might be a homer, or a lot of hard contact. I think that's a situation where the Rangers are in now, where they have to, you got to be able to score runs. And the last couple of games, they haven't scored runs like we saw them in the first 7 games of this postseason.
Now, on the flip side, with the Houston Astros, they love playing at Globe Life. I don't, it's one of those things where I'd love to play at home, but hey, listen, baseball is a quirky sport. What people aren't talking about, in my opinion, is Dusty Baker. He is a man that knows how to coach. He knows how to manage. He doesn't look frazzled at all. Can you dive into a little bit? I played for him, but we lost in the playoffs. Dive into a little bit of what he brings to the table, of the calmness and collectiveness he brings to this team.
Dusty is a guy, and you know this, Ty, cool as the other side of the pillow, right? and I don't expect that guy to get frazzled. He's like baseball Billy D. Williams in a lot of ways. He comes in with his hat and his gloves on, and he's ready to rock and roll. And I think something that I asked Dusty during the World Series last year after they won it all is, what did he feel in that moment with all of the games that he had managed before? And he said, for a long time, people liked telling me what I couldn't do. Oh, he can't manage bullpens. Oh, he doesn't have it in the big moments. Dusty makes the wrong decisions. But when you've seen that much baseball, I wouldn't expect that guy to get frazzled. When guys like Hank Aaron were your mentors, like we have as much history with Dusty Baker, like he links so many different generations. And I think when guys are around him, even the guys in that Astros clubhouse that have been used to winning long before Dusty got there, I think they feel as connected to Dusty as they were with AJ Hinch. Like, they feel comfortable. And I don't know if there's a lot of people who could have taken on that job and done it as seamlessly as Dusty did. And I think the reason that they're here at this point, and there's been so much continuity between the last regime and this regime, has a lot to do with Dusty Baker.
Is Dusty's loyalty to his starters going to end up hurting him? Because it looks like he's going to have to throw Framber back out there. And the loyalty helped him when he put Urquidy out there in Minnesota last night. He kind of had to go away from him. It looked like it was slipping away. Is it going to hurt him when it comes to Framber?
Oh, it might. It might. And I think this is the version of Framber that we saw in the second half of the season where you're just like, dude, I know when this guy is on, he's a top 10 starter in the big leagues, maybe even top 5, but he's just not that guy right now. And I think something that Dusty has done, if we look at the lineup, is Kyle Tucker is one of the best players in the big leagues. But at some point, you have to say, hey, he's not playing like it right now. We got to slide him back in the order. Maybe Dusty looks at the situation with Framber and says, hey, you have the shortest of leashes in this start. Maybe that's the way they have to do it. And I think the benefit that the Astros might have is, I think Bruce Bochy might have to have the same thing on the other side, because you're going to get Evaldi, you're going to get Jordan Montgomery. But let's say this thing goes 7. Who starts game 7 for the Texas Rangers? Do you throw Max Scherzer back out there? Andrew Heaney, obviously 2/3 innings. That's not going to get it done. So I think both of these managers are going to have to make some tough decisions, and the leash might have to be a lot shorter, even for 2 old school managers who like to give their guy a little runway. I don't think you can afford to do that in this series.
Can the Rangers make the adjustment and stop pitching to Yordan Alverez? Or is it just like they're not – it's not the pitcher's fault. Bochy, who is so good at the bullpen, every move he makes is surrounding getting Yordan Alverez out. Why not surround your decisions with getting the 2 people around him out? Because Kyle Tucker ain't doing jack. So you're essentially bringing in, to me, below-average matchup lefties against a guy who actually handles lefties well, but they just keep doing it every time through the order. Next lefty, next lefty. Hey, get him ready for Yordan. And Yordan's like, thank you.
Yeah, right here.
Yes.
Hey, right here. That's what I would do if I'm Bruce Bochy. I love watching Yordan Alvarez swing the bat. Like, he is an absolute pleasure to watch. And he's the reason, the way you're seeing him play right now is the reason that I thought he would be the AL MVP this season. Like, the guy is, I know we always, talk about him in the same vein we talk about Big Papi. Like, he has that type of presence where it's like, this guy can wreck our season. And he could do that for the Texas Rangers. And I think you're definitely right about, you have a guy who is split resistant, left on left does not bother him. At some point, you have to say, either we're going to bring our best right-handed matchup that we feel we have against Yordan, or we're just going to put him on, because it makes no sense. You've seen it. You've seen the damage. You've seen it against yourself. You've seen it against these other teams where it's like left on left, that's not going to work for this guy. And I think he's a special type of hitter. And for special hitters, you just got to tip your cap and like, hey, man, we're going to put you on and we're going to pitch to the next guy. And if he beats us, we'll tip our cap.
Yep.
I agree. I will also say if José Abreu is doing damage like that, then everyone's in big trouble. And we gave a shout out to our boy. We gave a shout out to our boy on the postgame show last night. We said Podfather looked at the 2023 season and thought José Abreu is going to lead the world in home runs. We just missed the ... I said, in the postseason.
He mumbled the postseason.
I said MVP,
part.
And I think I messed up.
No, you said home run leader.
Home run and MVP.
MVP? I don't know.
Just go with it.
You might get it all for the playoffs.
It's been sitting on my phone the whole year.
If they win the World Series, you might be right, though. That's my only point.
Not to bust in on Russ. It's because they're setting it up to get the guys around him out. He's hitting the ball to the moon. Stop. Put somebody in there. He can't hit a fastball above 95 miles an hour from the right side.
Yeah. You got to throw it in, too. They're not getting it in.
Lefties, Bradford, the rookie, is not coming in to get José Abreu out.
No.
Continue, Russ. You You have a comment.
No, I was gonna say no. You're cooking. You're cooking with gas. I was gonna say to Todd's point about José Abreu. Obviously, I got to watch him here in Chicago for a long time, and you looked at a guy that going into the season, I was with him. I thought José Abreu was gonna have a really big year, playing down indoors, where in the months of April, Todd, it get cold here, man. Like it don't really warm up until that first week of June, and so you see a guy in José Abreu who did not have the season that many of us expected to have. But right now, you're seeing the version of José Abreu that the Astros thought that they signed and thought that they would get, and it might be the reason they get back to the World Series.